Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inside the Newsroom. I'm Maddie Paul. Inside the Newsroom, we bring you the trending stories of the KELOLAND area, and best of all, we bring in our newsroom staff members here at the digital desk to talk about their stories. So you get a behind-the-scenes look at how they put their stories together, because they're talking about their perspective as they were interviewing for the story, as they were getting video, as they were putting everything together that you see go out for our newscasts and also our website, keloland.com. It's pretty exclusive. We'll get to some newsroom staff members joining me in 1 second, but we need to start with a very specific trending story. There's going to be more than 190 bills going into law today, effective today. So I want to break down a couple key laws and tell you a little bit about the background of what we're seeing today. Now, this past legislative session, Governor Larry Roden had signed 210 bills into law, and he vetoed at least 2 of them. Now, out of those 210 bills, at least 13 were signed with an emergency clause. So as Governor Roden was signing them, they went into effect immediately under that emergency clause. But today, July 1st, at least 197 of those bills are now law, effective today. Our digital reporter, Michael Dorn, actually had posted a story a couple weeks ago that broke down all of the laws so you can see them all in one place. But he also picked out a specific number of laws that will be going into effect today. So if we just reference his story here, you can see House Bill 1052 is one of them. This one's about eminent domain and pipeline creations. And we reference our stories and past reaction here, as Michael did. Another notable law going into effect today is HB 1239. And this one is a restriction of access to obscene materials in a public library or public school library. We also have Senate Bill 216, and now this one's about property tax revenue. And then Senate Bill 100, restricting on the carrying of a concealed pistol and other items for self-defense while on a campus of a public institution or higher education. We broke down a couple of these laws into different stories, breakout stories over the past couple of weeks. But if you'd like to see the full list, this is what it is on Michael's story. You could see that they're all listed, and we included links to that shows you where you could go and see this law. If I can just show you here, if you just click, it takes you to the legislative page and you can read more about the law and all of its signings. But here on our website, we have all of the House bills. And then if you scroll way down, again, this is so many laws going into effect, you can see those Senate bills as well. Again, this is a story that our digital reporter, Michael Dorn, had created a couple of weeks ago. And you can find it on our website, keloland.com. Just scan that QR code you see on your screen right there, and it should take you to our website homepage so you can find our story of more than 190 bills going into law today in South Dakota. Speaking of, we're going to talk about one of those specific laws here on Inside the Newsroom. And it's a law that some are calling anti-trans. It's causing a controversy in Vermilion, but one trans couple is hoping to make a difference. Our reporter is going to talk about their story that they've created coming up next on Inside the Newsroom. Stay with us. Welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. The effects of a new state law has bookstore owners in Vermilion selling their store and leaving the state. They're calling this new law anti-trans. But one trans couple says that they plan to buy the store.
We really respect what they're doing for their family because, their job as parents of a trans child is to keep their child safe, and they're doing that. And we believe that our job as trans adults is to work to make South Dakota safe.
Our reporter for the story, Nathan, joining us now as he found out that there is a fundraiser taking place in Vermilion to keep this store alive. Nathan, what did you find out from this couple?
I think, I kind of just found out more about that this store means a lot to people in Vermilion. It's a huge community spot that would leave a huge hole in the community if it was gone, and that people actually care about it enough to start a GoFundMe for it, and people are donating towards it.
And the couple that plans to buy the store, are they from Vermilion themselves?
Yes, I believe I asked, and I think they've been here since 2020 and 2019.
2020 and 2019. And
Yes.
The fundraiser had just recently started when you were getting the story together, right?
Yeah, I think when I interviewed them, it was about 22 hours old. So
Wow.
less than 24 hours.
Wow. And putting a story together like this, Nathan, this is an updated piece to a story you had done, just a week or two prior to this update.
Yeah.
Seeing these updates come together makes me really think like this is what news is all about, this community and these updates that we give. What kind of feelings were invoked through you as you were putting this story together?
I mean, I was kind of just like shocked about the turnaround. I just was in Vermilion covering this, and already the community is starting to get involved and starting to care. And, I don't know if it's because of the Kello story or if it's just because, the announcement that they made that people started to, really try to get more involved. But, I like to think it's maybe a little bit of both and that we had some help in keeping the story alive, hopefully.
And how do you hope this story will continue to stay alive after it's been published now?
Well, hopefully they can make their goal. I think no matter what it is, if it's important to somebody, it should matter. And, I hope that they get their goal.
They were saying the Donstads, they want to keep the store alive as this literary hub for the community. I'm reading your story on the website right now, and continue events such as the many book clubs held there. It sounds like they're real literary enthusiasts, Nathan. What was the impression you got from this couple as you were speaking to them?
They were so nice. Elias, actually, I was talking, he, I think was a creative writing teacher, and I had taken creative writing when I was in school. So I was talking about the professor I had, and he was telling me about the class that he taught as a grad teacher or grad assistant. So it was kind of just this nice connection about, talking about literary and USD specifically. And it was just, they were very easygoing and easy to talk to. And I thought they would just be, really good bookstore owners.
And, you're talking about that easygoingness that you were feeling out on the interview. How have you found your interviews becoming more easier, more simple to do, or just more comfortable to do as you keep doing your internship here at KeloLand?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still a little bit like, fake it till you make it, kind of, but you have to remember that they're probably more scared than you are. Even like doing this interview, I'm like, being in the other chair, I'm like, oh, but you kind of just, you go with it. And the more you do anything, the better you get at it. So
you're feeling your skills kind of develop a little bit more with these interviews then as you keep doing them?
Yeah, I think just like, I've been able to listen more. Before I was kind of like looking down at my paper, being like half listening, wondering what's my next question going to be? How am I going to relate it to what they're saying? But now I'm kind of fully being more engaged with their answers.
Do you come in usually with like a list of questions prepared, or have you found yourself kind of like winging it on, I don't want to say winging it, but like that listening factor that you're talking about based off of what they say, you're like, oh, I know what my next question will be. What's your process like for interviewing right now?
Yeah, well, I was kind of just taught like have like at least 10 questions ready. Now I have like 5, but it's kind of like a 50-50. I will go in with questions, but usually they answer the questions that I already have written down within the first question.
Right, as they're talking.
So then I kind of have to think, how can I take what they're saying even further? Why are they saying this? What's going to happen? Just going further with that.
Okay. And you like this process that you've developed, or what do you think it's like for you?
I mean, it's effective.
Gets the stories created.
Exactly.
What's one of your favorite parts about storytelling here at Kello? Is it grabbing those visuals? Is it conducting those interviews? Is it the chaos of meeting your deadline every day? What have you found to be really enjoyable?
I think just talking with people and discovering stuff that I had no idea about, especially when they say like a random fact that I had no idea, this thing existed or was happening. It's, just talking with those people and learning their world is one of my favorite things about it.
Is there anything else that you'd like to say about creating this story or working here at KeloLand, Nathan?
I mean, it was just kind of funny with this story specifically because last week when we were in Vermilion, it was a cloudy, rainy day. And then when we interviewed them yesterday, it was a nice and sunny day.
Gorgeous.
So I think it was just kind of telling to the story, a bright, sunny different side of it.
Yeah. Nathan, thank you so much for joining me at the digital desk. And stay with us, viewers, because up next, we're talking about the first South Dakotan to be drafted in the NHL. You won't want to miss this. Stay with us on Inside the Newsroom. And welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. Now, super exciting, a first for South Dakota. We know that a Pierre native will be the first South Dakotan to be drafted into the NHL.
It's been really cool. And so being able to do that for the first time and showing kids that it's able to happen.
Our reporter, Michael Dorn, was able to put this story together about Carter Sanderson getting drafted. Michael, what was the most exciting bits as you were putting this story together for our website?
Yeah, definitely I think the most exciting part here was digging into his history here. I spoke to his dad, Nathan Sanderson, a little bit here, and one of the things he said was Carter has had those skates on since he was 3 years old, and he has pretty much never stopped until he's reached this point here, where he's been drafted into the NHL. He's going to play for the Pittsburgh Penguins here, I believe. He's been drafted, so as of now, he still has some time in the amateur leagues here. I believe right now he's playing for the Muskegon Lumberjacks before he plans on attending University of North Dakota here is kind of his game plan right now, but definitely such a cool thing to kind of dig into, someone who's just dedicated to the game here.
Yeah. Michael, I've been working here for about 4 months now, and I'm trying to think of the last time I've seen you do a collaboration with our sports department. Is this like the first time you've done a little sports reporting?
There's been a couple different times, but this is kind of the first story I've done in this vein here where there's kind of a centralized person that we're all focusing on. But it was definitely a cool experience. I got to speak with Carter's dad here, Nathan Sanderson, and I know our sports department held their own interview with Carter here, getting one-on-one with him, which was very, very cool. But so we all kind of pitched in to make this story here possible, and that was just a really cool experience here.
Yeah, the collaboration that's going on behind the scenes with this story to get what kind of impact would you say for our viewers? Like, why have Nathan's dad be a part of the story, or I'm sorry, Carter's dad be a part of the story, Nathan, and then also include that interview that Sports did with Carter?
Yeah, I think it's an important piece of the puzzle here. That familial connection, it's someone who's been with him his entire life, watching this journey, and I think that's an important piece of this as well. I spoke with his dad. Obviously, he said this is an incredible achievement. He's beyond proud, obviously, of his son. But I think that's just an important part of it as well, is getting someone who kind of knows everything that's going on and has seen all these steps taking place, but can also take a look back and just kind of be, not exactly that person who's doing it, but has seen everything that's going on and can kind of recount those steps for us here.
We're talking about the impact right now, and then your inclusion of like this sports reporting is what I keep calling it. But it's kind of nice because you didn't have to do necessarily the point tracking for a sports story. You got to look more at that human level and that human connection element of sports that make sports so cultural and connects a community. Would you agree with that kind of interpretation, this sports community that's coming through, this human interest of having the first South Dakotan that gets to go to something so pro?
Yeah, I definitely think I agree with that 100%. We can get into the nitty gritty of how many games he's played, how many points he's scored, and that's important, and that has its own place, I feel. But what I wanted to focus on with this story was this is the first South Dakotan to ever be drafted to the NHL ever.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite an achievement here. So it's like, we want to hear from him. We want to hear from his family about this. We want to hear from everyone about this who's had anything to do with it. I think it's such an achievement that, while it's him, I don't think it's just his achievement alone here. And I'm sure he would agree with you on that. But I believe it's an important thing here where you kind of have to look at the whole piece of the puzzle here. I believe when in that interview he said he was just sitting down with his family watching the draft when he got the news and got a phone call to come down to and then he was off to Pittsburgh, where he is now. So he's out there touring the facilities and doing some training and everything with all the coaches and everything. So definitely such a cool experience to see that happen here in South Dakota.
I just got chills as you were saying that. Like, just having that kind of surreal experience for Carter must have been just so bone chilling for him too. Is there any other moments while you had your interview with Nathan, the dad specifically, that stories that he said that kind of stuck out to you?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I think really stood out here was more so Carter talking about the impact that he wants to see from this entire situation here. He basically said he wants to inspire other South Dakotans. Basically said, if I can do it, anyone can do it. It's not just anyone. It's anyone from South Dakota here could do this if they wanted to, is basically what he said. And I think that's just a really cool message to kind of spread there. He talked with his dad. He had a lot to say about his achievements, basically said this is just the start of a very long road here for him. Very long, hopefully long career here for Carter. He's been working so hard for this, and basically he just said that, this is something they've been talking about for a while, and to see it kind of finally bear fruit like this is just a very surreal experience.
Michael, thank you so much for joining me at the digital desk to talk about this important story. Right here, you could read Carter Sanderson, first South Dakotan drafted to the NHL. That's on our website right now. You could read it by scanning that QR code that you're seeing on your screen. And stay with us for Inside the Newsroom, because we're going to go outside. Well, not really. We're going to stay in the basement of the KELOLAND station. But we had one reporter go outside for the opening of a brand new park in Sioux Falls, the largest one ever, in fact. Find out more when we come back on Inside the Newsroom. And welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. Here's some park news for you. The Sioux Falls Noon Sertoma Club is raising funds to build an inclusive playground for people of all abilities in Sioux Falls.
We want to add an all-inclusive area, about 10,000 square feet of space for people of all abilities.
And we posted information on how they're doing that and the fundraiser on KELOLAND.com, so you can go ahead and scan that QR code to find out more. Also, the dog days of summer just got more fun in downtown Sioux Falls. Kelly Vogt was out at Jacobson Plaza on Monday as they celebrated a grand opening. Kelly, I need to hear everything about Jacobson Plaza. Your story showed a lot of the splash plaid. That seemed to be the biggest feature of Jacobson Plaza on its opening day, huh?
Yeah, well, when I went there on opening day with my photographer, it was clear that a lot of people knew it was opening day because it was packed. There were kids and parents everywhere. And the splash pad is one of the gems of the park. Several of the kids I talked to said their favorite part was the splash pad. But of course, there's a lot more to explore there as well.
Watching your story, it's so fascinating to see how many kids wanted to speak with you and wanted to share their excitement about Jacobson Plaza. What was it like talking to children for this story? Was it pretty difficult, or was their excitement so nice and friendly that it was easy to get some sound from them?
Oh, this was really easy. I mean, as a journalist, it's not always easy to get sound bites for your story, depending on the nature of your story. But when you're talking about having fun in the water and using a playground, it's pretty easy to get kids to talk to you. So I had kids even asking if they could be in the story after I had shot all of my interviews. So they were all excited to talk about it, and something that they were really enjoying yesterday.
What did the parents have to say?
Well, I talked to two parents, and they too gave this park the thumbs up. One mother told me that she really likes it for toddlers because it's not a deep pool. She doesn't have to worry as much about toddlers getting into some water that is not safe for them. And then another mother told me that this is another free attraction that her family can take advantage of. They really try to use the free attractions in town, and this is just one more that they can use throughout the summer and throughout the year.
We did a story yesterday on Inside the Newsroom about Jacobson Plaza, and we learned more about the money and the details that went into Jacobson Plaza. But your story features more of, I would say, the human connection of Jacobson Plaza. How important do you think it is that at KELOLAND we find all these different types of angles when we make stories that are about the same theme?
I think it's extremely important. I mean, with this story, it is a city-owned facility, so of course, you know, we have to break down how much did this cost, how many donations came in, when can people use it, what does this park include? You know, we need all of the nuts and bolts because that's important to people. But the whole reason that this was built is so people can enjoy it. So, of course, on opening day, once people could finally use it, we really wanted to find out what families thought of it because ultimately that's the important part of something like this. What do the residents think of it?
And so when you were out at Jacobson Plaza, did you get to go play at all, you and your photographer?
Unfortunately, I did not, but it was very tempting. It's always hard to go do a story in the summer at a water attraction and not enjoy it for yourself.
A good way to beat the heat, though, staying out by that splash pad, probably getting some sprinkles on you every time you could.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. You know, the wind was blowing, so there was a breeze kind of carrying some drops our way. But certainly a fun summer attraction for families to check out.
And when you're creating stories like these, Kelly, where it's like that fun and that beat the heat summer type of stories, what kind of excitement do you put into your story that you hope viewers can attract to as well?
I really like to make it visual. And so this was certainly visual. We tried to pack in as many shots as we could of people having fun and using the slides and the swings and running through the water. And with this particular story, I tried to really pack in a lot of sound bites from people too, because you know, I thought that was the most important part of the story. Typically, I might only have 2 interviews in a story. I think in this one, I had like 6 or 7 maybe, because I really wanted a well-rounded sample of what people thought of the place.
And what was most impressive about the fact that you, one, had so many people speak to you is also it was children.
Yes.
And usually children are so hard to talk to because you just get the yes or no type of answers.
And I got a few of those, but I mean, the kids were kind of the star of the story, I thought.
Yes.
So I wanted to include as many as I could.
Well, it's a fun story, Kelly. Is there anything else that you'd like to say about the opening of Jacobson Plaza?
I don't think so. It was fun to do this story because I've followed it, you know, throughout its construction, and many others in the newsroom have too. So it was kind of fun to put a little bow on our coverage.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much for coming to the digital desk to talk about an exciting opening.
Well, thanks for having me, Maddie.
Of course. And thank you all for watching Inside the Newsroom. That's all the time that we have today. But make sure you come back tomorrow at 1 o'clock to see more trending stories and hear from our newsroom staff members about how they put it together. We'll see you tomorrow.